Here's today's severe weather outlooks. I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. We still have severe weather popping up in pockets, is the best way I can describe it. In case in point, you can see today is definitely dominated actually more by this big stable high pressure area right here aloft. And then along the edges of that, sort of a modified ring of fire, I guess you could say. We got some severe weather threats up there in Montana, back into New England again, and this one in Texas is kind of interesting. Let's take a look at the New England version of that, and this is a level 2 out of 5 for a good chunk of Maine, parts of northern New Hampshire, and Vermont for later on today, Thursday. And then the other one is in Montana, level 2, so Missoula and Helena and Butte, Montana, Bozeman, all in that level 2 out of 5 risk. Now, interestingly, in Texas, that marginal risk is because of a tornado risk. And if you'll remember, a couple of mornings ago, they had a tornado in northwest San Antonio. Other tornado warnings were in effect yesterday. I didn't see any confirmed reports on that. But there's this small little area here of 2% risk as this disturbance that's been causing all the rain continues to shift slowly to the west. But going back up into New England, this is primarily a wind risk, 15% chance of a severe wind gust within 25 miles of any of those points and cities. And then if we go up to Montana, it's actually on the other side of things. It's a hail risk for that same slight risk area. If we look at CSU, Colorado State University's outlook, not any mention of tornadoes, not even in Texas, and pretty puny chances for hail, small little areas, wind, but this tends to focus right around, from Philadelphia down to about the nation's capital or so. Moving to Friday, things slow down a little bit more. It's only a marginal risk in parts of Montana, Idaho, UP of Michigan, up to northern Wisconsin, the Arrowhead region of Minnesota. And like I say a lot, by the time we get these things clearer into focus, a slight risk embedded in one of these is a possibility. And I'm going to tell you where that might be because we can look at CSU's probabilities and learning machine. It's putting a 2% tornado risk up here in parts of north, exactly where that marginal risk is for tomorrow. So that's an area that might get an upgrade considering there's also a 15% hail and a 15% wind area in that same area. So of all the areas for tomorrow, I would say that's probably the most likely upgrade to maybe a slight risk. Then on Saturday, first day of the weekend here, we do have this level 2 covering a broad area from Ohio to the Atlantic seaboard, much of Pennsylvania, much of Virginia in that, all of Maryland, all of Delaware, almost all of New Jersey in that. And now this is interesting. The tornado risk goes up on this a little bit. It goes up to 5% according to CSU in that same area, again, from Philadelphia over to the capital of Pennsylvania and then down into Maryland, Washington, D.C. Not mentioning hail a whole lot, but the wind risk is kind of a broad brush throughout all of that slight risk area. Now, we jump ahead to Sunday, and the SPC has pulled the trigger on a 15% chance of any severe weather within 25 miles from almost Richmond, but down through Raleigh, Fayetteville, North Carolina, Winston-Salem, Charlotte, into Columbia, South Carolina, and Florence as well. And so that outlook is indicated on the right here. And then by comparison, here's CSU's probabilities, 15% surrounding that and a little bit larger than what they have pulled the trigger on. Nothing really of any substance beyond Sunday that's worth mentioning so far. Jetstream pretty quiet. That kind of cuts down on the supercells. Now, interestingly, this first week, there's a maximum of supercells up here in Minnesota and Wisconsin. That's a reflection, I think, of that possible upgrade tomorrow. And that's about all that's going to contribute to that. Remember, this is a composite, add up each pixel over a week's time. So, and that week is, again, beginning today and going through the 22nd. Then after that, week 2, we have some very, very slight little areas popping up here, including New England and parts of the Atlantic seaboard, again, kind of popping up with some supercells. And then week 3, which gets us into the first couple of days of August now, continuing supercell threat in South Dakota, centered there, and in all the kind of surrounding states very close to South Dakota.